Hey folks, welcome to the beginning of kind of a month-long event that I'm doing. Calling it event makes it sound kind of official and cool, but overall it's a little weird. As you can see from up there in the title, I'm starting NaNoWriMovember. NaNoWriMovember. And you may recognize parts of that word. Perhaps you'll recognize NaNoWriMo as National Novel Writing Month, in which you attempt to write 50,000 words in a month and create a novel out of it. Or perhaps you will recognize Movember, which is a charity fundraising event for issues regarding male health, mostly various cancer-related things and all sorts of other things, sending money to research and to education. And I'm doing both of those two things at once. So I will be attempting to write 50,000 words, and I will be attempting to grow a mustache while not doing any of this. And basically, I found this to be a prime opportunity to start up a little bit of video logging. Tell me which one you prefer, because I know people get very, very picky about how they hear about their video entertainment. And so every Saturday, I realize this isn't a Saturday, but every Saturday I will upload a video kind of giving a status report about where I'm in my novel, how's the progress, how's the writing, and also talking about my experiences in mustache world, in facial hair land, which is a new experience for me. And now that introductions are out of the way, why don't I start discussing my preliminary impressions? So why don't we start with the Movember business, because it's cool. Basically, part of this Movember business is going to be me kind of begging you, not really, but to donate to the cause, because it is a fundraising event. So I will link down in the description down there a link to my personal Movember page, and there you can chip in as little or as much as you would like, and that would be much appreciated, although really I'm not in it for any sort of goal on my sake. You should just be donating for the sake of donating, because it's a good thing to do in humanitarian efforts and to possibly save your life in the future. Who knows, little things like that. But I will also be posting status update pictures on that of higher quality than you can see on these videos, because these videos obviously are not very high quality. I don't have professional video equipment for real life. I just have it for video games. But I'm going to try to keep the pleading to a minimum. I'm just going to discuss my impressions on Beardland World. And this is a new experience for me. I am not used to not having hair or facial hair. I had a goatee for most of high school. Like, I think once I learned how fashion sense worked, I had a goatee, and then it developed into a full beard midway through freshman year of college or something. But now, clean slate, and I'll only be growing the mustache section part of it. So part of it is that I'm going to have to remember how to shave over here and down here. I've shaved the neck area a little more, but as you can see, I'm still not very good at that. But I my experience tonight shaving, there was blood, definitely. I mean, did I already show you this? Did I show you that? Down here is the most egregious, but basically I had, partially it's probably because I'm using cheap equipment, because I'm a cheapskate like that. I have Safeway cheapo one blade manual razors. I have cheapest possible shaving cream, which I didn't even use before like this month. I got it like, maybe there's something to this shaving cream business. And then, like, after all the gritty stuff was off, I actually took my electric shaver and kind of buzzed it down, which is probably the most high-tech piece of equipment I have, and probably did the best job. But I didn't remember how hard it was to like shave a decent amount of hair. I used my beard trimmer here to reduce it to as short as possible, but it was still actually a substantial amount of hair. I realized like shaving daily or every other day would be a lot easier, but man, I don't know how people go through losing their facial hair. It's such an important part of me. And I haven't gone out into the world and seen how people reacted to the lack of facial hair. And I don't know how people will react to the growth of this thing, because it's not going to be that big. Mine's pretty pathetic, honestly. I'll definitely give a report on how people react when I upload a status update this Saturday. But I think like the facial hair was as much a part of my visual identity as my hippie hair was, and got rid of that this summer. I mean, looking at previous status updates I've done, like my last update on my old channel, announcing the move to the new channel, you would not recognize that I was the same person. I even have new glasses. And I think I'm also going to have to adjust seeing myself in the mirror and not having facial hair. It was an issue for a while with the up top hair, and it's probably going to happen again. And yeah, I don't know how people are going to view the progress of the mustache, because mustaches kind of have a stigma in a certain regard. If you don't look good with a mustache, you can look like ultra pedo creepy, and I'm afraid I might fall into that category. It's entirely possible. But again, this is all speculation and worrying on my part. I don't know if it's actually going to go poorly. Maybe I'll look great with a mustache and find a new look. I don't expect that to happen. I think this is just going to be an annual thing. But overall, hopefully, I'll become more comfortable with the shaving process here, especially because I can use my electric buzzer thingamadoob for the shorter hair, although that really does not work on the neck very well. I'm cautiously pessimistic, basically. Why am I doing it if I'm pessimistic? I don't even know. But I expect the worst, the worst, and then when it isn't the worst, I can be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, let's move on to the nano aspect of things. For those of you not familiar with NaNoWriMo, I can give a little more background and information. I learned about it last year, about in the middle of November, and that prompted me to do a bunch of creative projects on Facebook, because I felt like, well, if I can't do a full nano, I should do some other cool things and at least exercise that part of my brain. But now I can do it this year, starting November 1st, going through November 30th. And writing a 50,000 word novel. And most people use it as an excuse, basically, to get writing, get back in the habit, or just become more comfortable with it, try out a new process for writing. I haven't written anything like creative in a long time, like since middle school or maybe even elementary school. And back then, I would always ditch projects really quickly. I would get a few pages in, and I'd be like, I don't like this idea anymore. Go away. I'm going to write something else. I went through a phase where I rebooted the same series over and over the span of a month. I have the first page of that series for like, I don't know, like 20 different versions of it, I'll bet. Or maybe they're all in the recycling bin. But here, I can't really do that. Some people do a collection of short stories. I'm not doing that. I'm sticking to one solitary train of thought and thread. And I think I'm actually pretty well prepared for at least a first-timer. I'm not aiming to excel, create amazing material. Nobody should. This is the roughest of drafts for all people. But I'm going in with protagonist, obviously, my expected character arc for him, and a pretty solid timeline of events. Some of the specificities of the events are still vague, and I'm afraid that'll give me some issue when I come to them. But overall, I know where I'm going. I know where I'm starting. I know where I'm going, and I think that's going to be a lot of help. And dividing it into like I think 16, 17 chapters that I have will allow me to kind of do things in installments for my own personal kind of benefit and motivation. And basically the way I'm writing it is something that a lot of nano people use, is a program called Scrivener, which I actually learned about from a guy last spring who recommended senior people do it for their theses. But basically, it's a visual information organizer database kind of thing that a lot of writers use to organize chapters, thoughts, character biographies, etc. And there's a special free trial for Nano participants that lasts all through November plus a week. So that's beneficial. And if you complete your 50,000 word novel, you get 50% off the regular price. It's only $40 anyway, but still, that's a good motivation. So basically, I have 17 or whatever chapters, chapter titles, chapter summaries, character bios with more detail than I will ever use. The problem is that I have not done a whole lot of world building. I haven't named the main town that it takes place in. I know it's a coastal town. It's a coastal town with a lot of, actually, it doesn't have a whole lot of import and export because of some history stuff that I did develop when I realized, wow, I don't have a whole lot of world building. So I wrote up some history about essentially a conquistador and a parallel of the Native Americans being wiped out. But the world itself isn't very developed, and I feel like, assuming I do it next year, which I hopefully will, I'm going to want to develop my world a lot more kind of over the course of the year leading up to it, so that I'm not in a huge rush to kind of develop a new world, and I can just plink some characters in and explore. Because that would be kind of another approach to writing that I haven't used before, and I mean, there are a lot of approaches to writing that I haven't used before, so hopefully it'll be at least successful enough for me to try again in a different way next year. And it's essentially a story of the story. You got a pair of foster brothers. They're originally going to be regular brothers, but I made foster brothers because orphans and pickpockets, and didn't really see them as biological brothers, although they essentially act like them. And essentially, they are troublemakers around town. They're kind of Aladdin types, but they work together. The older brother's kind of buff, brawny, and the younger brother is kind of the endurance and the nimble fingers. And then one day, the older brother gets captured by the police, the soldiers or whatever, thrown in the dungeons, and most of the novel is attempting to break him out of there. And it's kind of the younger brother as a one-man army, and it's going to be an examination essentially of his lack of self-esteem compared to his much more masculine brother. And this is a lot more autobiographical than I originally intended, but there is a certain amount of autobiography in there, and there's also a lot of influences actually from various media. The only one I can recall off the top of my head is kind of the Simone-Kamina relationship that I have going, from Gurren Lagann, for those of you who don't watch anime. Kind of a similar relationship there, and kind of a similar character arc for the main character. And I realized how autobiographical it was when I named the main character, the little brother, Jay, and the older brother, Simon. So first off, Simon coming from Simone, not consciously, but I'm sure it was in there somewhere. And then Jay, of course, my name is Jake, starts with a J, and my older brother's name starts with an S. And when I realized this, I was like, I don't want to use those names, but they're the perfect names. I went into a lot of effort, actually, to figure out the right names for the two characters. Other characters I kind of was blasé about, but essentially like how I came up with the ideas for the story is how I came up with the names as well. I went to a folklore motif database and used a random number generator to get 5 motifs. It's basically like more academic TV tropes. And attempted to create a story out of that, or at least build the world with those ideas. And let's see, I had vow for brothers never to fight. I had monkey distracts gardeners or something so that the birds can escape. I've got a wife withholds sex from her husband to get her way. And I've got 2 others, I think a fake death in there, and I forget the last one. Some of them became more consequential than others. But I developed the 2 main characters, Simon and Jay, out of monkey and bird. So Simon is in simian, and Jay is in it's a bird. And the alternative there was Colin, which also has a bird name. But that would be even more weird because I have a friend named Colin, and that's just makes me a little uncomfortable to name people directly like the same as people I know. Like vague allusions are okay, but not so much exactly. So I had to give the older brother characteristics of a monkey and name him kind of in a monkey way, and then do same basic rigmarole for the younger brother. It just turned autobiographical, I swear. I didn't mean for it to be this way, but it is that way. And we'll see if I actually write them like I perceive my own relationship with my brother. But I imagine that will be a lot of inspiration for at least the character arc of Jay, who will build his self-esteem, figure out that he can do his own thing. He doesn't need to align himself with the preconceived notions of masculinity, to put it in a pretentious kind of way. And overall, I'm hoping that this goes well. I think I've structured it enough for me that I've set out a good framework that I can work from, and that will keep me motivated, or at least keep me in line. And basically, I set it up for myself. I got to write the bare minimum at least every day. If I write more, great, but that doesn't excuse me for any other days. I still have to write the bare minimum each of those days, because if I let myself relax, I will never finish it, and that's no good. So the next status update on these 2 projects will be this Saturday, for kind of a first few days in first impressions, whether or not they kind of align themselves with my predictions of what's going on in this video. And I hope you'll all watch that, be interested in that, or at least have the video on in the background while I speak, because you like to feel like people are home. But for now, I will see you guys next time for the second installment of NaNoWriMovember.